wanted to talk a little bit more about Wicked for Good, which is like part two, the continuation of the story, the wrapping up of the story, and how that looks compared to how part one was in terms of like award season. I was thinking of this like in the lead up to this film coming out and all these things, not even just because I think, as I said in my 1 minute movie review, and I think people generally feel that part one is better than part two in terms of like seeing the play and people liking, or the musical rather, people liking the first before the intermission and then the last part not as much. And even like in the musical as well, like in the films as well, they obviously they made them longer, but in the musical in New York, it's 90 minutes is the first section, and the second section is 60 minutes, so it's less. In this film, this time, the first part was like 2 hours 40 minutes, second part's like 2 hours 15 minutes, something like that. And in general, like I said, I like the part one better, and I think a lot of people will feel the same in terms of whatever. I won't go down that rabbit hole again. But thinking about like how does this look in award season? Not necessarily again because like one is better than the other or anything like that, but again it's like, okay, we're seeing like a continuation of a film we just nominated, especially since it's so recent, like just last year. Wicked last year at the Academy Awards, they had like maybe almost 10 nominations, if not 10, I can count quickly. Best Picture, Actress, Supporting Actress, Costume Design, Film Editing, Makeup, Hairstyling, Production Design, Score, Sound, Visual Effects. Okay, so they had 9 nominations last year. I really feel like that they probably will get nominations again in like the creative categories. They had 2 wins, Paul Tazewell, Costume Design, excellent, and Production Designers, Nathan Crawley and Lee Sandalis. I think that they could be good shots to getting back in there again, same with maybe Makeup and Hairstyling. But I think other than that, they will get a Best Picture nomination likely as well because, I mean, it's Universal, they're behind. The Universal Aunt Donna Langley they're gonna get nomination for Best Picture, no surprise there. But I think outside of like Best Picture and like some of the creative categories, I think their next best shot, also there's a casting award this year, so maybe casting, who knows. But the next option I think they have is Ariana Grande for supporting actress. Now there's been a lot of talk already about how great Ariana Grande has been in this film as people who've been able to see it early. And I didn't talk about this in my 1 minute movie because there wasn't really time to get into it, but I agree she was excellent in this film. I'm sure she will get a nomination. I think she has a very good shot at winning the Oscar this year, but there are a lot of great other supporting actress performances we've seen so far, but Ariana Grande is great in this film. And I feel like I don't think Cynthia Erivo will get another nomination, not because she wasn't excellent in the film, but I think the field is so crowded so far this year of so many great films and performances coming out. But I think also for Ariana's Glinda and Glinda to Glinda, in the situation now, we were seeing her like go through this kind of transformation a little bit at the end of part one, and she's really fully into it in this film, part two, and she really gives a great performance, let alone like all the singing and stuff like that, but the kind of like, peaks and valleys and all these kind of things that Glinda has to go through as being Glinda the Good, and like the situation with Fiyero and like Cynthia's Alphaba and Madame Marble and the Wiz and all these kind of things. And I don't want to like spoil things too much for people who haven't seen the film, but there's a lot going on with Glinda. So she's like, there's a lot happening, and Ariana Grande does so great in terms of like portraying the struggle that she's going through. One, in like her face, the way she's like showing what's happening, but also the way she's singing, the way she's like, the whole thing from her, she's excellent. And I think she has I can guarantee right now she will get a supporting actress nomination. But other than that, I remember even speaking with people about this like last year watching, or earlier this year rather, watching the Oscars, thinking like, okay, how many of them will like come back again in terms of like being nominated again? Think about even recently, Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2, which a lot of people kind of thinking opposite maybe. So a lot of people thought Dune Part 2 was even better than Part 1, which Part 1 was excellent and all those kind of things. It's based off that one book, but it was split into 2 films. But Dune Part 2 had fewer nominations than Part 1 did, where again, people were like, Part 2 was much better. How about they, yada, yada, whatever. But again, it's like a sequel or it's like a continuation of a story. Think about Kill Bill. I'm thinking about that because Quentin Tarantino was going to release them together the way they were supposed to be released originally, like I think beginning of December. Kill Bill Part 1 had like X amount of nominations, I'm not sure, had like a good amount, maybe 6, something like that, I don't know. And Part 2 had no nominations in terms of the Oscars. So it's always interesting thinking about these like kind of sequels and thinking about stories that are split into 2 films, what's things like that, like what's it going to look like in terms of award season? Is it going to be like, okay, we just saw this, or is it going to be something different? And I think with the 2 main actors in this thing, Cynthia Erivo has had several nominations before at the Oscars. I think she's had like at least 3, possibly, not including her songs. maybe only two. I don't remember, but she's had like a couple. So we know Cynthia and like her acting ability. I think as well Ariana Grande. She still has some kind of like, she's kind of in some people's eyes maybe more like new and like more of a novice in the situation. And in terms of obviously some of these voters are not kind of watched Victorious or whatever it is, but she's like still kind of new in the field of acting. A lot of people would say. So I think that also is going to help her in terms of like, and getting the nomination. And again, I think she would be up there in terms of potential to win, if not only the Oscars, like other awards that we're going to see in the next few months here. But yeah, give me your thoughts on that in terms of Wicked. Again, not even necessarily thinking about like which part is better, which film is better, but like in what do you think it's going to look like for award seasons? Do you think Paul Tazwell will repeat? I was sitting there watching the film last night, and I was like saying like, wow, like outfits, great, yada yada. And of course, there's all new things, some old sets, some old outfits, let's say. But overall, really, really, really great. And it's just about getting into the mind of these Academy voters. Are they going to say, okay, we just did this last year, are we going to do it again? Are we going to go somewhere new, somewhere fresh, whatever? Or does the kind of concept of this kind of being a film shot at once, so that kind of like maybe have playing people's minds in terms of, I don't want to vote for this, like this was technically something that already happened. I don't know. All this jabbering on. In general, like I said, I would recommend seeing the film, especially if you have not seen the musical in New York or wherever else it plays. Go finish up the story. Go see what happens if you don't know already. Like I said, several people in my screening seemingly had not seen the musical because they were like gasping at all these moments, and I didn't have to gasp at these moments because I knew it was going to happen because the moments they were gasping at, whatever like that. So go ahead and finish up the saga, see what's going on. Also, like I said, kind of already, go see it for Ariana Grande's great performance, Cynthia's great performance, Jonathan Bailey's great, all these kind of things, all these great performances. But again, I'm sure Ariana Grande will be making waves in these next few months in terms of the award season. But yeah, that's all. And if you have somehow not seen The Wizard of Oz, go watch that as well. Kind of, as you know, the kind of story, The Wicked is like a prequel to The Wizard of Oz, and you kind of see Dorothy a little bit, and like the lion, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, all this kind of thing. So go watch Wizard of Oz if you haven't seen it. I also would recommend watching The Wiz, which came out a couple of decades after The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, all those good things. Enough for me now. Go watch Wicked Part 2, or For Good. They changed the title, so Wicked for Good.